Good morning, Peter. How important was it to bring Roger back and bringing back his leadership?
Look, I think the makeup of any team has to have um, different age groups of players, and so Roger fits in a way that it for sure is leadership. I mean, there's no doubt that Roger still has a lot to give on the field, but um, the way he is with the young players, it's priceless. So we have quite a few young players on our team, and having somebody like him around to help as they continue to transition as players in the first team is very valuable to us. So yeah, it was a signing for not just his play on the field, but for those other intangibles that sometimes are really really hard to find. And the fact that he knows our club so well and he's been here for a long time, those are just again just add-ons.
Our next question goes to Ali Trost with Sports Radio 810 WHB. Ali, your line is open.
Hey, Peter, how's it going? Thanks for doing this. In Roger's press conference, he said that about a month or two before the season ended, he actually initiated a conversation with you about wanting to return to the club and kind of went into some details there. From your perspective, what was your reaction when he came to you and talked about wanting his future to be at Sporting in 2021?
I mean, honestly speaking, I wasn't surprised. As I told him at that time, I said, "Look, let's deal with it at the end of the season," because I just didn't feel that with any of the guys at that moment it was appropriate, because we were still in the thick of things, and I wanted to keep our focus on the job at hand. But we felt the same way. I mean, it wasn't like we were thinking to ourselves, we didn't want him to come back. It wasn't like that at all. But I also think that at the end of the season, when the season's over with and you can actually sit down and have meaningful conversation, some of it's the reflection of the past year, some of it's kind of how you see things moving forward. It's not just on the club side, but it's also on the player side, because sometimes players also want a different challenge, and it's important to give a little bit of time to sort of absorb and comprehend where you are at, and then be able to have I think a professional conversation around it, and we did. And Rogers, I personally have I think a unique relationship with Roger, and we've always had great conversation, and this one was the same. So it was actually a lot easier than difficult.
The next question will go to Harold Kuntz with Fox 4. Harold, your line is open.
Hey, Peter, hope you had a happy holidays, man.
Thank you. You too.
No problem. Okay, you got the signing of Remy now along with Roger. Just talk about the kind of how the makeup of your clubs looking forward, with the acquisitions you've made and then the reacquisitions you made with Roger.
Yeah, I would first state that we're not done yet. We still have a few other, I would say, players' positions that we're looking at. I would probably say positions first, and then players second. And we have to be very strategic in that. We kind of have like a pecking order of what we're looking for first. But what we feel is that we have a strong nucleus of guys in what's returning, and the acquisition of somebody like Remy really adds to that, because there's an experience level there that is excellent for as we move forward, especially the positions that he can play, and how he can help us out moving forward. What I'd also add to that is that every year is a retooling of our roster. I don't really know if we've been in a rebuild yet. I know that a lot of times rebuilds are, wholesale changes in clubs, and I don't think necessarily we're in that place by any means. But I do think that we have a much younger group than we probably have had in the past, or we have a larger group of younger players, and they're still in that transition phase, right? They're still in that phase of trying to make their play in the team consistent. And so with that, it's one, they have to do their job. Two is we have to have not only a staff, but also other players that can assist in helping them become the professionals that we want them to become. So I think we're trying to build our roster that helps with that. At the same time, still puts us in a place where we can compete. But as I stated, I think, we're still in a place of trying to add some other players to the club as we move forward. And I know probably one of the questions probably comes from Thad or something, and he'll probably ask us a specific question about a player. I won't comment on specific players. What I will comment on and say that what we will be is we'll be very patient in not settling for a player. And it's more along the lines of making sure that we get a right fit for what we think that player would have a real impact in our team.
Next question will go to Sean Goodwin with the Kansas City Star. Sean, your line is open.
Peter, I love the background. I know you said you won't talk on specific players, but talking about guys at the club at least, are there any updates on the negotiations with guys like Felipe Gutierrez and Gerso?
Felipe, we are in a negotiation with him. We have been for, since the end of the season, his representatives. It's a little bit of a different one. And I won't go too deep into it, but obviously we're dealing with the injury aspect of it. Obviously you guys all know he didn't play a single minute last year, and he had a surgery that, frankly, at the end, there's an unknown. We don't know to what level he could get back better than he was, the same, or maybe not get back at all. And this is more of understanding that we have to put ourselves in a position to, and I say the club, that we can protect ourselves against the fact that he may not play again, or to the level that he was. And so we just have to be smart in if he was to come back, that we're protected in that vein. And I think that he, as representatives, they understand that it's about whether or not we can get to an agreement that everybody feels comfortable with. So we've been working with that. In regards to Gerso, again, a simple one. We offered at the end of the season with Gerso, he did not have an option anymore. And so we did have, based on the rules with the CBA, we had the ability to provide what's called a bona fide offer. And we did that, and it wasn't something that he accepted. We wanted to bring Gerso back, but he didn't accept that. So at this point, there is no negotiation because he declined our offer. At the same time, we maintain his rights. So I'm not sure if he's going overseas or what the plan is there, but again, understand that we are obviously, with the offer, the bona fide offer, our intention was to re-sign him. Whether that's where that goes from here, I couldn't answer that, because as of right now, he's declined that offer. So there is no negotiations at this moment.
Next question will go to Thad Bell with SB Nation. Thad, your line is open.
Hey, Peter. No, I learned a while back you don't answer specific questions. But how difficult is it to be bringing players in now with the world situation with the virus? Is it harder? Is it the same?
Each deal always has its challenges. What I would say about the world market is I think there is sometimes I believe in the market there is this naiveness to think that there isn't an impact financially, in that you're not going to get the same dollar amounts that you were getting prior to the pandemic. And so but I do think that clubs eventually come around. But always the recruitment of players is always very, very challenging for so many reasons, which you guys have heard me speak on. I don't need to bore you with it, but they're just always really challenging. And I still think those things remain. Where the challenge is now with the pandemic is more of the timing of bringing people in, quarantine and just all of those logistics. That's where the real challenge is.
Talking about following up on that, talking about how difficult it is with bringing people in right now, planning preseason and planning games. I know the league says one date, but there's been, we don't know that that's really going to happen. How much complexity does that add to even doing all that? It's hard to describe, because normally speaking, if you just take preseason, for example, we normally have preseason already done back in June or July. And right now, our preseason is not even close to those kinds of confirmed plans that we would have back in July. And that's telling you a lot about where things are. And I would say that the majority of clubs in Major League Soccer are probably the same way. There's just so many unknowns, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to put yourself out there financially with hotels and flights and just on and on and on, when you don't know all the confirmed dates at the moment. What we are using is February 1 as our start date. And so we're kind of working around that date. And if it changes, then we'll just have to be what we've been all along. And that is, we'll have to be adaptable, and we'll just have to keep, making moves and pivots based on where everything is.
Next question will go to Sean McCaffrey with Soccer Long Island Magazine. Sean, your line is open.
Thank you, Peter. Happy New Year. One of the things you touched on was the importance of the leadership coming back with Roger. Of course, Beezer's gone, Beckerman, who plays youth ball here on Long Island, gone. And you mentioned on the field now, and I brought this up to him as well, off the field, he's very active civically. How important is that to you, and that you sign not just the player persona, but the whole person, in the hopes that the younger players follow his lead sort of with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I would say is that, one of the requirements, if you will, or part of the recruiting process with us, with any player that we bring into the club, is that we have an expectation from our players and our team that is off the field as well. And so it's, as much as Roger's been fantastic in that area, and it's great to return that. Any player that we bring in, we have the same expectation for them as well. And if they haven't done that in the past, they usually get on board really quickly, because I also think that our club does a very good job of creating the opportunities for the players to participate, but more importantly, to understand, how meaningful their participation is to the different things that we do as a club in and amongst the community. And I have to say that I'm always really, really proud of our players, because they do a tremendous job in that area.